Well, good morning everyone. I'm Adrian. I'm here with my colleague Maxwell. We are subgroup 3 of MBA Qatar 2016 batch. As a part of the assignment in leadership and business development, we are set to bring you some valuable comments from one of the senior leaders who has vast level of experience in medical industry.
Let me give a brief introduction of the successful leader. He is the Executive Director of the Heart Hospital and National Center for Cancer Care and Research of Ahmad Medical Corporation, owned by State of Qatar. His experience in the industry goes back to almost 20 years, and he is with Ahmad Medical Corporation since 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Paul Mahmood. He is Executive Director of the Heart Hospital and National Center for Cancer Care and Research.
Well, good morning, Paul. Hope you're well this morning. And thank you very much for the opportunity given. It's a pleasure and it's a great honor for us to be in front of you at this moment. And we believe the comments that you're going to contribute will be really valuable for us, as well as students who are going to get enrolled in our MBA program in future. So we have prepared a set of questions which we will ask you one by one, and then look forward to hear your valuable comments.
To get started, it said leadership is a journey. Could you tell us about your journey so far, starting from early days of your professional career?
Sure. After I graduated, I decided that I wanted to undertake a career in healthcare. So I started initially on a training scheme as a finance manager in London. I spent 3 years there. Then moved to work for a number of hospitals in the Manchester area, initially working in finance, firstly as a cost accountant and then as a management accountant. And then in 1989 I took a year of work and went travelling around the world. And when I came back I took a slight change in career direction and moved into sort of a more general management role. So I then undertook a number of roles in the UK National Health Service, which culminated in working at board level in a number of organisations in the north of England. Firstly as Director of Planning, and then Director of Corporate Governance, and finally as a Company Secretary. And I decided to make a move overseas in 2004. And it took sort of 3 or 4 years for that to come to fruition. But in 2008, I was appointed to the post in Hammer Medical Corporation, working initially in Hammer General Hospital as an Assistant Executive Director of Business Development, which I took that post up in March 2009. Worked in Hammer General Hospital, working directly for the Chief Executive Officer. And in a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I was asked whether I would like to move over to the Heart Hospital and take up a role as Executive Director here, which I did. And a few months later I was asked to take on the Executive Director role at PCR as well, so I combined the 2 roles. So that's really the journey career-wise in a nutshell.
Well, that's very interesting. And it's said by Aristotle, he who cannot follow, he cannot be a good leader. So, can you name a person who has a tremendous impact on you as a leader, or could be one of your mentors, and also tell us why and how, what sort of an impact he had in your life?
Probably the first Chief Executive I worked for. I'd just been appointed to a role in a 400-bedded hospital in Cumbria in the north of England. And I went there as a Director of Planning, and the person I worked for, who's now retired, had been the Chief Executive there since the hospital opened. And I suppose the leadership quality that he exhibited more than anybody else I've ever met was he was very rarely in his office. He was out on the floor meeting people all the time. And I would honestly say that he probably knew every one of the 3,000 staff who worked for him. And it was that level of engagement and his personality that probably had the biggest impact on me in terms of a leader. Somebody who, people would follow him, quite literally wherever he went. And that's something I've tried to do and follow ever since I met him.
And as leaders, all leaders have strengths, and also as individuals, everyone portray strengths. What do you think is your greatest strength? Or strengths?
I'd like to think that I would like to think in a way I've done what my mentor did. I like to think people know me and that I'm approachable and people feel free to come and talk to me. And I would hope that's one of my strengths. I'm probably not the best person to judge, but I hope that's the case. As well, on a professional level, I like to think that I exhibit integrity. If I say I'm going to do something, then I will do it and follow it through. So I think that sort of having that personal integrity, and if you can exhibit that to the staff who work for you, that's very important.
Okay, good. I think the next question leads to that. It says, to add value to others, one must first value others. Said by John Maxwell, it wasn't me. What are the most important values you demonstrate as a leader?
Integrity. Integrity and honesty, I think, are very important. Even if you've got bad news to give, then you do it. You don't try and hide from the truth. I would say that's probably the single biggest value that I would, from a personal level.
Good. And decision making as a leader is always key. So, what are the most important decisions that you make as a leader for your organization?
I think that's changed with the various different roles I've had. In the past, certainly working in the United Kingdom, in the NHS, we were working in an environment that's much more cost constrained. So many of the decisions you were making there were, they felt as if they had a financial component to them. Although working in healthcare, you've always got to balance that off against quality. And I think the most difficult decisions to make are the ones where you've got that quite explicitly got those decisions to make that are balancing cost against quality. Even here, where the financial climate is less constrained than it has been in the UK, I think those decisions that impact directly on patient care are the most difficult ones to make.
If I may ask you some questions which related to the current organization that you are working for, where do all the great ideas come from within this organization?
Everywhere. I think that's one of the key challenges as a leader, to recognise the fact that leadership isn't necessarily about position and status in the organisation hierarchy. You can see great leaders everywhere. I mean, you go out on the wards here and you'll see people leading in their own way, and equally that's where great ideas come from. They'll often come from the most unlikely of places. And I think part of the challenge of leadership is to acknowledge that fact, identify it, and then cultivate those ideas and those leaders at an operational level.
Alright. And as a senior person within the organization, how would you encourage creative thinking within your organization?
At one level, I think creative thinking comes from the individual. I mean, some people are more creative than others. Yes, you can teach creativity, but I think personally,
more within the individual.
It's within the individual. I think part of the challenge is encouraging people to want to innovate. Again, some people will just do that naturally. They'll just get on and do it. What I like to think is in this environment in Qatar, one of the ways we try and encourage creativity and innovation is to celebrate it. So people come up with good ideas, new ideas, and we'll pilot them, we'll try them, we'll test them, and if they work, then we'll celebrate the success, and we'll celebrate it quite publicly. So, that is an encouragement to others, and it's an encouragement to the individuals themselves to keep on doing it.
That's a famous saying, vision without action is a mere dream. Action without a vision is just time passing. Vision plus action can change the world. So do you set aside specific time to cast vision to your employees and others within the organization?
I think what we try and do here is communicate as frequently and as openly as we possibly can. Now, some of that communication is often operational stuff. It's just it's the action side of that equation. It's telling people what needs to be done, how it's got to be done. But also once in a while we will set time aside to try and describe what the organisation's vision is, the direction of travel, and we will do that jointly with the medical director and the CEO, and we tend to sort of probably try to encourage that as a debate rather than information giving it, because I think part of developing a vision is ensuring that individuals feel they can contribute to that vision as well. So we will try and do that in this forum, and that's something I've tried to do wherever I've been really. Is to give people an opportunity to contribute to the vision. It's not something that sort of landed on them from above, it's something that they can buy into.
Okay. And organizations such as Hamad, they are driven by the values of such organization. So how do you encourage others in your organization to communicate the core values?
I think in healthcare, people who come into healthcare tend to come into it for a reason, and often that's altruistic. They want to help other people, whether you're a doctor or a nurse, administrator. Yes, you could, as an administrator, I can go and ply my trade in another organisation if I want to, but I wanted to come into healthcare because I wanted it to be an organisation that was adding value to society, and in many respects, I think in the best organisations, that value is just inbred into the people who are coming into the organisation to work. So you don't have to, quite honestly, you don't have to try that hard, because people are doing this because they want to do it. Whether it's here, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in India, whether it's in Australia, you find most people working in healthcare are doing it because they want to help people. So that fundamental value of helping people, I think, is there. Part of our challenge is to make sure that doesn't get sidetracked. And I talked about the thing around finance. I worked in the NHS for 23 years, and for most of that time I was working in an environment where we were constantly trying to find ways of doing things more efficiently. And the challenge is to keep the focus on the reason you're in healthcare, which is to help people, as opposed to changing the value to become just being more efficient or saving money. So it's reinforcing at every opportunity you get that the reason you're here and the reason you're doing the job is to help the patient and to help the patient's family. No matter where you are in the organisation, whether you're cleaning the floor, whether you're a nurse at the bedside, or whether you're serving food in the canteen, fundamentally you're here to serve and help the patient and the family.
And approximately how many staff are you leading in this division?
In the Heart Hospital and NCCR, between the two hospitals, it's about 3,000 staff.
Okay, so it's a large number.
Yeah.
So how will you ensure that their individual activities are aligned with the core values of the medical hospital?
Well, as I say, in most cases, it's a fundamental part of the job. You don't become a nurse to not look after people, so it's embedded. One of the ways we try and do it is to make sure that firstly, we're visible, so we walk and talk and go and see people frequently just to reinforce things, but as well we will ensure in our selection processes and recruitment processes that we put people in leadership positions throughout the organisation who are going to be constantly reinforcing that message about high quality patient care.
Yeah, Adrian's question leads pathway for me for the next question, which, how do you help the new employees to understand the culture of the organisation?
That's a good question, because again, particularly when most of our employees are expatriates, so they're coming into a new country and into a new organisation. So one of the things we would do with all new employees is put them through a sort of 3-month probationary period. And that's so they get embedded in the organisation, we have an opportunity to work with them, they have an opportunity to work with us. And we'll have formal induction programmes, formal training programmes, all done within the first 3 months. Because it's a big change. When you move country, you come to a new job, you come to a new country, a different culture. It takes some settling in, and it's not easy for some people. Sometimes you've got family situations to try and cope with the officer, but we will try and do what we can to get people settled as quickly as they possibly can. And then once they're settled personally, then we can start they'll feel more comfortable, and we can work with them more effectively within the organisation. So it's about making sure there's an appropriate time for people to get settled. But what I have found, and I would say to anybody if they're ever thinking of coming aboard and working aboard, once you move into the hospital, once you come into the hospital, you'll find you're in a very similar environment to the one you come from. If you come from a hospital in India or a hospital in the UK, once you move into the hospital here, it's like any other hospital. It's fundamentally about caring for patients. So that aspect of the culture change isn't that difficult to cope with.
Okay. And as an organisation gets larger, there's a tendency for the institution to dampen the inspiration. How do you keep this from happening?
I think we're lucky enough to be just about the right size, and this goes back to the first question you asked me about the sort of personal leadership, and I think a lot of it is about being visible, going out talking to people, encouraging innovation, encouraging enthusiasm, and as long as you can do that, I think you can keep that. But you're right about size. Once the organisation becomes large, and I have worked in some very large organisations, particularly if they're geographically dispersed as well, it becomes increasingly difficult to have that personal visibility. But I think it's important to try and do it.
And if I ask you, how did you handle the time when you had to make an unpopular decision?
I think making unpopular or difficult decisions that affect individual members of staff are probably the most difficult decisions you have to make. And I've worked in various organisations where we've gone through situations in which we had to make people redundant, and I think they are the most difficult decisions to make, and the most awkward sort of moments in your career. And I think the only thing you can do in those situations is be honest and open and truthful with people about why things are happening, and you can't duck it, you can't pass that on to somebody else. I think it's a big mistake if you do try and make those difficult decisions and pass them on to somebody else to sort of pass on the bad news. So if there's difficult decisions to be made, you make them. If there are difficult messages to be transmitted, you do them personally.
Yeah. Basically what you mean is take the ownership and be transparent.
Yeah.
So, and what is one of the mistakes you witness leaders making more frequently than others?
I suppose over the years, the most difficult, the decisions that I've seen that have gone wrong, or the leaders that have not been as successful as you thought they or hoped they would be, are the people who sort of moved away from some of those core values. They've not been completely honest. They've not been completely transparent about what's happening, whether that's with the staff within the organisation, or in some cases, it's with the general public. You've not been dishonest, but you've not been completely open and transparent about why things are happening, and I think that's the way to failure, because ultimately you get found out.
Okay. I'm sure as a leader, day in and day out, you face a lot of challenges. What is the biggest challenge as a leader, director of the organisation, you face?
I think one of the biggest challenges we face here in Qatar is, and this doesn't seem like a challenge, but bizarrely it is. In the 8 years I've been here, challenge here is to use the resources you're given wisely. Because here, for most of the time I've been here, access to resources has been relatively easy to get. So we've been able to buy things and recruit people. But it's doing that sensibly, doing it wisely, and spending the nation's money sensibly, so that what we ultimately do is provide a world-class healthcare service in a country that's got the resources to do that. So it's a big responsibility. I think that's, doesn't seem like a challenge, but actually it is. It's quite easy to make the wrong decisions when you've got access to resources. Back in the UK, I think it's almost turned the other way around. The inability to access resources, or the constraints on resources, mean that the sorts of decisions you're taking mean that when you're using taxpayers' money, you have to use it as wisely as possible. So you need to be very clear that when you're making those decisions, you're using public money to make them. So they need to be justifiable, and you need to be able to stand up and justify them to the public.
Well, I value and respect that thought of you.
Yeah. So it's been said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. Could be slightly different in the case of a heart hospital. Failure could be fatal as well. And courage to continue is what matters. So from your viewpoint, what is your advice towards risk-taking and failures, and how to overcome failures?
I think that's a good question. I think in healthcare, generally, organisations tend to be quite risk averse for a whole variety of different reasons. And in the UK, I would say a lot of that is around personal job security, and people will not take the risky decision because it could have difficult consequences for them, particularly when you're dealing with public money. And there was a period of time when the sort of life expectancy of a chief executive officer in the UK was about 18 months. So what people were seeing was that was a learned behaviour. If you took risks, if you did things wrong, then you were penalised for them, and that penalty could mean the loss of a job. So people tended to be quite risk averse. But that goes against many of the tenets that you will see in other in other sectors of industry where risk taking is encouraged, because it encourages innovation. And I think that's a really difficult balance to find in healthcare. But I do think we need to take more risks. By that I don't mean risks through people's lives. I mean but I think we need to be prepared to look at something, try it, test it, see if it works. If it fails, then we've learned something. You learn from your mistakes, and I think that's something that we have to get better at doing in healthcare. Acknowledge the fact that we will take wrong decisions, but we learn from them, and next time around we'll hopefully get it right.
I mean, you mentioned earlier, most of the leaders, their failure is sometimes they are not transparent. They don't communicate properly to their staff. What is the one behavior or trait that you have seen derail more leaders from their careers?
Probably that lack of transparency.
Okay.
And that lack of integrity.
And what are you doing to ensure that you continue to grow and develop others as leaders within the organization? There's a formal component to that, whereby you have formal training programs, you encourage leadership development, and that's something I've encouraged both here and in the UK. And here I think the real challenge is to ensure that we develop a sort of cadre of category leaders in the future, because ultimately most of the expatriates here, all of the expatriates here are going to go home, wherever home is. So it's beholden on us, I think, when we're here to make sure that we develop a generation of category leadership that can keep this place going forward into the future. That's where the future has to lie. So that's one aspect of it, and there's a formal training program to do that. But I think informally, encouraging leaders wherever you find them in the organisation,
is a trait of good leadership. You should, when you see people, you should encourage them. When you see people doing good things, you should encourage them.
Okay. And what is one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?
Integrity. It's back to what I said at the start.
Okay. Alright, so that's bringing us to the last question of this session. What advice would you give to someone going into a leadership position for the first time?
I'd sort of flip that round in a way, because I think for anybody setting off in any career, regardless of what it is or where they start, then I think the question should be more about wherever I am in the organisation, how can I develop my leadership skills? And some people are going to have those more naturally than others.
Sure.
But I think we should be encouraging leadership skills across the organisation. So I don't necessarily, yes, there are positions that by nature of their title are leadership positions, but I think people can demonstrate and should be encouraged to demonstrate leadership wherever they are in the organisation. So
wherever they start.
Yeah. So part of the challenge is to say, when I go into my first job, whatever that job may be, how can I demonstrate leadership skills? And so I think part of it is training people in leadership skills at a very early stage in their career.
I think
even if they're in a leadership position or not.
Yeah, because most of the people, they think, okay, I need to get promoted, I need to come into this position, then only I will,
I disagree with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the things I have found in some parts here is sometimes there's an expectation that leaders will know everything. So if you're sat at the top of the organisation, you will know everything that's happening below you. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's just in an organisation of this size, that's just not possible. Plus the fact I don't have the expertise. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. I don't have that expertise, and that's. I think the really good leaders that I've come across in the past as well are people who surround themselves with very, very bright people who are subject matter experts in their own area. And you encourage them, and to be the leader, you make sure you've got people around you who can lead as well.
Exactly. Well, that bring us to an end of this enlightening session, and it was certainly a great time spent. And thank you very much, Paul, for your valuable time.
My pleasure.
And also for your valuable insights. And definitely, this is going to enlighten a lot of leaders in future. And wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
And have a good day.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.